Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play Dark Souls. It's been a bit. Several months, actually. 2 months. I kind of got pulled into Overwatch, and I got a new computer, and I had to set up this whole streaming thing, and it's sort of just gotten away with me, or away from me, and I'm kind of addicted to Overwatch. I think I mentioned. But we are finally back, and we have made it to Anor Londo. It's a little bit different than the last place we were in, if I remember correctly. Sen's Fortress, as I said back then, is very, very run down, very, very destroyed, and yet you look around here, I mean, for one thing, I don't think we've seen the sun, like, all game, but for another thing, just all of these buildings, even this stairway here, everything is in just pristine condition. We haven't seen anything like this at all. I really like the way that, you get carried up this big wall, and you can really see pretty much the entire level from here. But if you haven't been through it yet, you really don't even know, how much of this giant city here am I actually going to explore. It's a really, really great introduction to this area, and it sets the tone so well, because, again, you have no idea what you're getting into here. We go down and we finally see this big dude. Like one of the tricks you could use in Dark Souls to tell if it's an enemy or not is whether or not a big thing appears, or whether or not you can lock onto an enemy. That said, these guys, they do a lot of poise damage, but they're not actually all that bad. At least with our giant shield here. Well, that was a bit weird. I think I'm trying to play this like Dark Souls 3. Hence the rolling out of the way of attacks and stuff. Yeah, definitely not used to these iframes. Oh yeah, I guess that was another thing that happened since I last recorded. Dark Souls 3 came out. So hey, that'll take some getting used to. There's a chest back there, but I think given the 57,000 souls, we're better off trying to get to a bonfire first. So you look around here, and this wasn't quite as obvious before, but that building that I think we saw when we were on the roof of the church is now closer than ever, but still not quite there. If we try to make our way over to it, we'll quickly be roadblocked off. But first a bonfire, and one that's already kindled at that. We did not actually have to light that one. And that's because she's a firekeeper.
Well, you are a rare visitor. Welcome to the lost city of Anor Londo, chosen undead. If you seek Lord Gwyn's old keep, exit here and head straight yonder. If you are the chosen one, a revelation shall visit thee. What follows thereafter depends upon you.
And she gives us a little more direction, which is good, because again, we've been looking for this city this whole time. And now we actually know where it is. Right, no Firekeeper souls. Anything else to say?
What is it? What am I? Well, I am the keeper of the bonfire. If not for me, what beacon would there be in this lost city? A gatekeeper and a guide. That is my calling.
Anything else?
The bonfires attended by the keepers are special.
Ah.
They are linked to one another, and their flames never die. Yet never shall the keepers of these flames meet.
Yeah, she has some slightly weird side story about that, about the nature of the keepers. You don't really hear too much of it elsewhere in the game.
If you require rest, now is the time. That is, after all, what the bonfire is for.
Not wrong.
If you require rest, that...
Alright. Not too many more options from her. Not much to say when we leave, either. So yes, this bonfire comes pre-kindled because it's already attended by a bonfire, or by a firekeeper. So we get 10 Estus flasks just to begin with, which is quite nice. That said, I think we should use our large pile of souls here, especially because we're only level 38. I don't tend to level my characters enough. At least in Dark Souls 1. Yeah, God, I have to like remember what all of these things are. I can still get quite a few easy levels here. There we go. Sure. Alright. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's go check out that chest that we saw beforehand. So yes, Anor Londo. As I've been saying, it's quite a big change, and it's also probably another step up in difficulty. This is really the, I guess, both emotional and difficulty curve climax of this game as a whole, really. Like, the boss of this area is, without a doubt, one of the hardest boss fights in the entire game. And in a way that, while kind of bullshit, isn't really bullshit. Like, it's very much designed the way that it is. Oof. Oh dear. Yeah, these two attacking at different times is really screwing me up here. These big guys are pretty tough, because they do block most of your damage. Alright, there we go. We've split them apart slightly. Another thing, if you're too close to that attack right there... Oh dear. Woo! The shield slam right there, you will get hit by it, and it will... there we go. It will stun you even if it doesn't, like, hit you. So you do kind of have to be careful of it. I'm doing my best to try to strafe this guy on the right side, on his shield side, because as you can kind of see, a lot of his attacks don't really connect very well here. Like, there we go. Yeah, I gotta get used to kind of slow and steady style again. We'll make it work. For this difficulty, you get a chest. Some Demon Titanite, which reinforces special items, but I don't think we've got any right now. We also see an interesting statue that will probably be familiar to some folks. It's quite a nice spear that guy has, and quite a fancy lion helmet they have. But I'm sure we'll never see that again. Let's check out what's over in that room's twin over here. Another thing that I really like about Anor Londo, as I notice it here, is everything is just so big and spread out. You really get this sense that this place isn't designed just for humans, you know, like, look how huge this archway is. Look how big these guards are. Look how far, like, how big and open this space is right here. Like, we haven't seen anything this big anywhere else in the game up to this point. And there's, you know, it's very much designed that way on purpose. Hello. Do you have anything equipped that'll help me here? Okay. Sure. Fine. Oh. I'm playing it in 1080p now, and I don't know if that's screwing with me or not. Who did I manage to just aggro that guy? These guys have really, really tight aggro frames. Which is actually pretty good, because you can do that. You can use that to your advantage. Uh-oh. So yeah, the hitboxes in this game are definitely... Woo! Oh dear. That was some buffered input right here. The hitboxes in this game are definitely a lot different than Souls 2 and 3. They really refined a lot of the systems a lot. I guess I'll probably end up talking about that a decent amount. Just because I'm now used to playing Dark Souls 3, and going back to this is going to be a bit of an adjustment. Honestly, when we get to the DLC, I'll really have a lot to say about, like, how even there you could see the design goals of the game, like, the gameplay itself shifting rather than just, you know, level design and things like that, because it's impossible to say that Dark Souls 1 versus 2 and 3 doesn't have a lot different a shift in the way that the combat itself is designed. But you could already see that in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, so I do have a lot to say about that. At its proper time, of course. DLC in this game is very, very late game. It was very much tacked on for people who had already completed the game. We should have an opening after this. So, I'm surprised. I was expecting them to go for the follow-up. Would have given me time to shift it around, or to get behind him. Anyway, we get a second, slightly different statue. Interesting. And 2 chests. And now, this isn't really a tutorial in the way that a lot of other things I've said in the game are subtle tutorials, but I do like this placement where you have 1 chest here, and note the chain in particular, and then another chest here with a slightly different setup, and the telltale movement that gives away the fact that this one is in fact not just a chest. There are quite a few mimics in Anor Londo. I do quite like that the game spaces out its mimics. Like, the first one you see is in Sen's Fortress, but it's the only one in Sen's Fortress. There we go. And the game sort of tries not to go wild with them. So that you see that first one and it screws you over and you're like, oh, god damn it. But then they put the next one in the next area in a completely unassuming place, so that, like, it gives the player time to completely forget that that happened to them last time and get caught by it again. I think I remember from Geops LP, I'm pretty sure he got caught by that one too, and it was just like, oh, I should have known. You'll have to go back and look, because my memory might not be the finest. Another thing you'll notice is that we've killed, like, I don't know, 4 enemies at this point, and we went from 7,000 to 15,000 souls. At this point in the game, it is incredibly easy to just farm souls off of various creatures, because, like, the guys in this area, I think they're given, what, 2,000 per? And that's just the very first enemies we've run into. Like, that was an interesting block frame, if you insist. To be fair, I'm a tiny person who is definitely benefiting off of these block frames as well. So it can't be that bad. There we go. Get some good shots in here. I believe these guys do stagger, but it's a bit tough to get them to do so. Like, their poise is quite massive, which is what you expect from a big enemy like this. Oh dear. The hitbox on that is definitely weird. Either way, yeah, 1,500 souls, so pretty good. And I know that this is blocked off, but just for the sake of showing it off. If you were to come up this way, the game cuts you off very, very quickly with something you've never really seen before. A giant yellow wall. There are a few more of these in the game, and they do basically serve as examine brilliant light, sealed by the Great Lord's power. So yeah, it very clearly tells you, no, don't head over this way. There really is only one path left, and like the game, for how spread out it's been, The path in Anor Londo is very, very much single-threaded, I guess. There is interconnection, but it is very much an example of straightforward level design where you really are only going on one path for the vast majority. This kind of design shows up a lot more in 2 and 3, where the first half of Dark Souls 1 is very much this almost Metroidvania-y exploratory thing, and Anor Londo in particular, and then a lot of 2 and 3, has this very much more straightforward level designy levels, if that makes sense. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Straightforward, like, searching for an endpoint kind of levels. They really came to be what the series was about in the later games, but this is an early example of it. Walk around here. You'll notice that this platform spins with or without us. Sort of just goes up and down. And you'll also notice something a little familiar. Wow, that's a bit of an odd graphical glitch there. Those... Oh, wow. So yeah, you can get an axe from cutting off its tail. I don't think I showed that off in the first boss fight. I'm just shocked that I got that much damage on it immediately. With our heavy gear, we are definitely much better equipped to deal with this guy than we were with the other one. Another thing that I may or may not actually get to show off is that rather than spewing fire like the church gargoyles did, this one, who has different golden armor rather than the other ones who had kind of more iron armor, will actually shoot out lightning at you if you give him the chance. Wow, that was a strange hitbox right there. There we go. You'll notice lightning is a common theme in Anor Londo, and if you remember from the start, that was really Gwyn's calling card. You know, he and his knights shot out lightning. There are a lot of lightning enemies here in the City of the Gods. But I also like this gargoyle in that it kind of provides a link back to the City of the Gods, to like the quest of the gods. And how it started with us trying to ring the Bell of Awakening guarded by these gargoyles. There's a lot of attention to detail given by these enemy placements that we see here. That said, we're kind of running into a bit of a dead end here. In fact, there's just about nowhere to go from here. So, if we could find a way to bring that big platform down, that'd help. But there doesn't seem to be any way to do that. Maybe there's something over here we could use. I do really like the way that this section in particular is designed. There was a talk that I'll probably link at some point that talked about how the way to move forward here is really to look at your surroundings and find the one thing that's completely out of place. Because you do see this place, and it does feel like it's almost a museum, you know? Like Disneyland, where everything here seems to be perfectly preserved compared to the rust and decay that we've seen all over everything elsewhere. And the key to actually figure out where to go here, because it's, you know, we still don't see anything, is to look around and notice that if you look over at this lovely church here that does stick out quite a bit compared to everything else, there's actually a broken window just way out there in the corner. You can also see the cliff through there, which is definitely a graphical glitch. But it's very clear, you know, all of these other windows are pristine, perfect. Everything else around here is good. There's some moss in the steps, and when you look closely, you can see the start of decay, but everything is really well kept. And in what is probably one of the meaner moves in the game, You actually have to get onto this, and the first time that I did this as a player, I was like, there's no way this is right. This feels like an exploit. But you make it all the way over here, and yeah, this is actually the intended path. Yeah, that is also, I really feel like they could have put a better landing point here, because every time I make that, it feels like I'm exploiting geometry by landing on that railing there. But you make it in through this one little imperfection, and suddenly we're in a whole new area.